By King Promise, and in the studio, Her Excellency, former French Ambassador Anne-Sophie Avé. Good morning and thank you very much for coming.
Thank you for having me.
At least I woke you up earlier.
You did.
But when you were in office, you were waking up as early as 6 a.m. or 7?
Yeah, but you see, the embassy and the residence were in the same compound, so I literally walked from one to the other. It took me a minute, so I didn't have the traffic excuse.
Okay.
So I could be at the office very quickly. So I would wake like half an hour before I would take.
Well, what time were you reporting for work?
Oh, 8 a.m.
Oh, good.
Yeah, but my staff was coming at 9, so.
Really?
Yeah. Oh,
we're
late goers. Yeah.
I wish I'll start work at 9. At least I'll have enough
I can imagine. When my alarm clock went on this morning, I was thinking of you and like, oh gosh, he's doing that every day.
Yeah. 6 a.m. I'm here every day at 6.
Torture.
Indeed. Well,
absolute torture.
My bosses are listening. Yeah, 6.
Yeah, so you deserve a raise. Is that what you want me to say?
Obviously. If I say it louder.
Yeah, or some sort of a hazard, work hazard bonus.
I've had guests come in to say it, yet nothing is happening. This man deserves a raise. He deserves a raise.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would call it work hazard bonus, for waking up that early. Yeah.
Yet, woe betide you if you walk in late. Trouble. Mm-hmm. Trouble.
Yeah, because there's no one behind this mic, right?
Welcome. This is your first time in here?
In this station? I think
yes.
So, yes. You never invited me before.
Oh. At least we have invited you now.
Yes.
At least.
Yes. Better late than never.
Yeah, that's right. It's quite unfortunate that you've left office, but we're happy to always see you walk in. Even if we don't see you around, we see your arrival at the airport is almost documented all
the time.
All the time. Why is it so?
I have no idea. I don't advertise it. I say I'll be coming back to Ghana, but because I've been here 4 years, so many people, even at the airport, immigration, Air France, they know. So the news spreads very fast. And then I always have someone coming to pick me up, and that someone usually tells someone else. And eventually there's always a camera or a blogger that's around, and so they like to publish that I'm back. So every time at the airport, but this is so moving, so touching. It was amazing. Every time I arrive at the airport, the moment I step out of the plane, there is someone, not even in the airport, right in that tunnel, on that little bridge we take to get to the airport. There's some of the flight attendants or the people working for the airport. Immediately, the moment I step out of the plane, I hear, "Oh, hello, Akusia, welcome back, Aquaba." And I just can't believe it. It's just incredible.
But you don't tell your blogger friends that you're coming?
No, and sometimes they're not even around. But I don't know who documented that last time. And there was these wonderful ladies from Aquaba Asha who wanted to welcome me and brought me one of those cards saying Aquaba, and it's just crazy every time I'm coming.
Then they brought they brought a cultural troupe to come welcome you. They were drumming and dancing.
No. That would have happened if I had given them any shorter notice. But I also try not to give too much notice. But people know that I'm coming. Because most of my friends, I let them know that I'm around, so we shall meet up. We'll be able to, I'll be able to see them. They'll be able to visit in my house, in my beach house. So, people know I cannot come incognito. Even if I tried, I think it wouldn't work.
But don't you get worried, especially being out there, like you're almost in our faces every time? Don't you get worried, like, oh man, it's getting too much? Every day I'm either on TV or on the radio or on social media.
Even when I was ambassador here, I was worried that people would be fed up with seeing my face everywhere, because I was on the posters promoting the TV show that I was doing, then I was on TV, then I was everywhere, and I thought, well, maybe people would get bored, and so I was trying to make myself a bit more silent. And I had this wonderful young manager, community manager, who was helping me with my social media. Sometimes you say you have to go mute for like a week and everything. So the people who want to know, they just follow my social media, and those who don't want to know, they just don't. What I'm very careful now is not to shadow or in any way step on my successors' feet. So I don't talk about bilateral relationships anymore, because that's really my successor's job. And so I stay within my professional fields, which is Ambassador for Public Diplomacy in entire Africa. And there's a lot happening in Africa at the moment, so I've got a lot to say. And as a citizen now, a regular Obroni coming to visit and loving Ghana so much. So that's already a lot. But I'm no longer Ambassador of France to Ghana, but I still have some ambassadorial position.
When you were about leaving, what was the greatest regret or the worry leaving office or leaving Ghana?
It was not a regret. It was devastating, because I never thought when I arrived that I would fall in love with this country so much, and that this incredible skill and gift that people have to make you feel special and make you feel at home, that is unique. That is unprecedented. And I had traveled in many countries and I had never encountered that. So, yeah, I felt like I was leaving home. I was leaving the place where I felt at home, where I had been happiest in my entire life. So it was absolutely devastating. But it was not about leaving the ambassadorial position, because that is a job like any other job. And I never took that. I did take my job seriously, but it never went to my head like, oh my God, I'm an ambassador, so I have to behave like I'm somebody important. I never thought that. I took my duty and my role very seriously. Like, I have to build bridges and I have to give a realistic image of my country, as tell who we are, what we are, and connect with the people. So I took that very seriously. But what I really appreciated was what I did outside my ambassadorial duty. I loved working with the media, doing a TV show. I had great fun doing the concerts and bridging the French and Ghanaian artists through this Paris and Accra, and then Accra and Paris concerts. I enjoyed the music here, the culture, the tradition, the design. And this, you don't need to be an ambassador to carry on enjoying it. This is something all my friends and the people I have known here, and I was maybe afraid of being out of sight, and they would just forget me. But and I was absolutely baffled when I realized that there hasn't been a single week since I've left when I didn't have messages, phone calls, or just people checking up, or, it was incredible. So most of the people who were checking up on me while I was sick in the beginning of the year were actually Ghanaians.
Wow.
So, my family could hardly believe it. They say, but, you've got so many friends in France, and the people who are checking up on you and the people who are coming to visit, they're actually Ghanaians. So yeah, because they're loyal, that's who they are. When they love you and when you love them back, you're part of the family, and they will just do anything for you. And I would do anything for them.
When you were coming to Ghana, obviously there was an assignment. Mm-hmm. Did it change?
The assignment?
Mm-hmm.
No, but the way you achieve it is different. Each ambassador will do it differently. I think it's probably very confusing for ambassadors who have been in diplomacy for like 30 years, because the president we have is a very young president. He was 39 when he won the election, so that was
impressive.
Very impressive. And nobody knew him, really. He had been minister in the previous government, but he was not someone who had been in politics for like 30 years, and everybody knew, and he had some sort of a corpse in his cupboards and everything. Nobody knew much about him. He had written a book that was called Revolution, That was like his manifesto. But that's all we knew. We didn't know the people who were surrounding him, and we didn't really know what kind of politics he would have in terms of diplomacy and international relationships. And especially with the African continent, he was born 10 years after decolonization. So to him, the vision he had of Africa was a modern Africa. The first encounter he had with the continent was in Nigeria. As an intern during his studies, there was a 6-month internship that needed to be done, and he had done it in Nigeria. So he's a very unusual French who addresses Africa through modernity, through Anglophone countries, and not the usual kind of Francophone relationship that we've had. He knew nothing about that, and he doesn't carry that heritage at all. So he has seen Africa as a continent that you need to bet on, because that's the future, because of the youth, because of the talents, because of creativity, and that's the prisma he was looking at Africa through, which is completely breaking up with the usual way that the French and the French politicians used to look at Africa. There was the French African countries, and then the rest. To Macron, there's a whole continent that we need to address with all the diversity and specificity of each country. So he's also betting on working closer with Kenya, with South Africa, with Ethiopia, with countries with which we never had any relationship. We've always had diplomatic relationship, but we don't have this heavy past that we find very difficult to get rid of, and we find it difficult to move on from. And when I say we, it takes two to tango. I mean these countries as much as we do. So probably the ambassadors who had been their entire career in diplomacy, and suddenly there's someone who's telling them that we need to change completely the way we work with African countries. We cannot behave like we've known them forever. We have to have a new, fresh look onto these countries, onto those people. They are changing, and the average age of the continent, which is less than 20 years old, it means that your predecessor didn't have the same people as you had. Stayed 4 years, but the people who were 14 when I was there, they are now 18 and they're going to vote. And this can completely change the landscape and even part of the mindset. So unless you are very open-minded to that, you're missing a point. And I think it's been very confusing for many diplomats, because they had a way of doing things, and then suddenly Macron says, no, look, we have to identify the areas where they have strengths and they are really, really good, and that makes them proud, like heritage, again, design, music, sports, entrepreneurship, and focus on those. And that's what I did, because I wasn't coming from the diplomatic service. I was coming from the civil service in different ministries, but not from diplomacy. So my assignment was, you have to bet on sports, entrepreneurship, music, and areas that will make people proud, that are areas of strength, and not focus on, we build a borehole here, we build a road there, because that's basically the government's duty and not ours. And it's not our role to say, you should build a road here or you should build a bridge here, which is what we've been doing in the Francophone countries, like we know better. And this is what the people now cannot stand anymore, this French behavior, like we know better. And that's what Macron has wanted to change, but that's what our diplomacy finds it very difficult to change.
I see. Listeners, in case you just tuned in, you're listening to Showbiz Review. My special guest in the studio, former French Ambassador Anne-Sophie Avé.
Akosia.
Thanks for the reminder.
Anyway, people call me Akosia, so, you know.
You're born on a Sunday.
Of course. Otherwise, it wouldn't make sense.
Well, you're blessed. I'm also a Sunday.
Kwesi.
Yes, please. Thank you. Thank you. Oh, Kwesis, yes. Yes, Kwesis, yes. All right. Ambassadors mainly work to support the interest of their country in foreign countries. And so, yes, you did very well. In fact, if I'm not too mistaken, you are the most popular ambassador we've seen in recent times, I guess.
After Tom Benjamin.
Well, Tom was also popular. Yeah, Tom did well.
Yeah.
But I think you, especially within our space, our industry, you really, really, really done well. And when it comes to your assignments, I mean, consular, there are other things, economic cooperation, I mean, agriculture, just as you mentioned, there are too many things. But it seems your interest or your passion was heavily on music or the arts. Why was it so?
Well, I didn't mean to. When I came to Ghana, I didn't think, oh, I'm going to focus on entertainment or music. I grew up in a musical environment. My dad was the head of CBS in Belgium. And CBS was a music company, a record company that is now Sony Music. So I find it funny that now I see some young artists signing with Sony Music. It was like, it's like the circle is being buckled up. So I grew up surrounded by music. Even now, when I go to my parents, there's always music playing, always, but usually classical. But but I grew up in the 1970s, where the creativity was just crazy, absolutely crazy. The American music, which has crossed the borders, are still playing now. And they are remixes, and those songs people still know now. So I've attended the beginning of Michael Jackson and these incredible artists. So the creativity was bubbly. It was absolutely incredible. And of course we had records playing. Well, it was vinyls, like, the big black vinyl records that you have to put the diamond on in between two songs.
The wax.
Yes, the wax ones. It was so I've known that. I've known the tapes. The tapes you had to roll with a pen.
The pen.
And I felt blessed that I had a tape recorder and a record player in my bedroom, which was a luxury, but I absolutely loved it. And in the middle of the 1980s, I think that the creativity sort of faded, and all we were listening to was remix of what was just a few years before, but there was nothing new. And I lost interest in music at that time, let alone I was going to study and I was busy with other things. So I lost interest in music. Then, life carries on, and when you have children, what you listen to is children's music, which is, this kind of stuff that you have in your head and that it never goes out. And
like the lullabies.
Yes, it was. But that's what they liked. And then suddenly my children were teenagers, and they were listening to music, and I was like, and they were surprised that I knew the tunes and I was like, but of course it was my time. It's just a remix,
right?
Which confirmed that there was nothing new, and all that the new singers, new artists were doing was just remixes from the 1970s. So really, music was no longer my passion in any way, because I felt, okay, we've had a wonderful we were a wonderful generation. We've lived the 1970s. That's over. And I arrived in Ghana, and music is everywhere. You go on the streets, you go to the bars, you go even to the supermarket. There's always music, and that really, I pricked up my ears, and I was like, wow, this is different. This is great. This is Afrobeat, and I started listening more carefully, and that's when I thought, but this is crazy. This is amazing what they're doing. And you see now, like 4 years later, that Afrobeat is literally taking over the whole world. And you see that artists from Nigeria, from Ghana, but also from other African countries. You're all focused on just a few, but there are amazing artists in Cameroon, in Guinea, in Burkina, and all these music. And Congo also has incredible artists like Fally Ipupa.
That's right.
And it's taking over the world. They are filling in huge stadiums. They are performing all over the world, and the whole world likes Afrobeat, because I think they are just like me. They were looking for something fresh and new, and catchy, and they just love it. So it's just it was just the opportunity. I met Ghanaian music, and I just loved it.
Wow, I see. But coming to Ghana, what was the first thing that came to your mind
When I arrived,
when you arrived?
I was baffled by the kindness of the people. The moment you arrive, even the people in immigration checking your passport or your yellow fever, they welcome you with a big smile. Well, go to Europe. Go to Europe. To get a smile,
Especially in the morning.
especially early in the morning, and that's very depressing. And you know, when I was based in Europe on a daily basis, I didn't realize that. But when I went back to Europe after 4 years in Ghana, I was looking at the people and I was like, wow, they don't smile. They're never happy. We've got everything and they're not happy. They were very fair, of course, like they lack the sun. And they don't have this warmth that you find here and that I missed so much when I went back to France. So yes, the warmth, the kindness.
And
And the smile.
of course, yes. Ghanaians are warm, lovely people.
Yes.
Yeah. So yeah, you came down and decided to take our music to France and even help collaborate.
Yes.
And bridge the gap between France and Ghana. Was it difficult?
Actually, it was again a matter of opportunity. So some French artists came to Ghana because they wanted to do music videos for their music, and they met a few Ghanaian artists. But when they came here, I said, "But why don't you meet other Ghanaian artists and do more featurings and see what comes out?" And one of the first one they met here was Kwamna.
Okay.
And so they met in Bolare's office, and they left the office like 10 p.m. and went to the studio to say, oh, let's see what we can do. And at 3 a.m., I wasn't with them, right? But 3 a.m., I receive a WhatsApp message with a draft, unedited matrix of a song that they had produced. And so I was listening
that night?
That same night.
Wow.
And so I listened to it. I was like, this is incredible. So I listened again and again. I said, well, okay, so we need to do more of that. We need to connect. Because you had the French influence and the Ghanaian influence. And the mix of both was just, wow, out of this world. So they then met with Stoneboy and Sarkodie, Becca. The one they did with Becca is just incredible. I think it's the second best of Becca's, just after African Woman. It's
Okay.
an amazing song, and when I listen to all those tracks, I say, well, this is great, but how about you present them in a concert? That's when they did Paris in Accra, the
Okay.
Alliance Française, and when they did that, I looked at the audience. You know, I turned around and looked behind me at the audience, and there were people from everywhere. Francophone Africa, well, of course Ghana, Francophone Africa, some French people, some people who had crossed the borders. They had come from Togo or Côte d'Ivoire to see Passy because they knew him. And some people, of course, from all sorts of nationalities that you have here in Ghana. And I thought, wow, that's what music is capable of doing, bringing people together beyond languages, beyond nationalities, beyond everything. And I said, that's what diplomacy is trying to do. So that's what we have in common. We're trying to bridge people beyond all the differences
Right.
and the hurdles that we may have. So I thought, let me try and do a concert in Paris and see if we can attract the French audience, which is probably one of the most difficult audience because we are very spoiled. In Paris, we have over 200 venues.
Wow.
200. So every evening you have a choice between 200 theatre play, cinema, bar, café théâtre, which is like you have a stand-up artist and you're sitting in a cafe or having dinner. But
Right.
there's
At the lounge.
in a lounge, and then the stand-up artist is performing. You have concerts, you have shows, you have incredible. So you have a choice of 200. So I said, if we manage to fill in a prestigious venue like the Élysée Montmartre, an evening when there are so many other options for people in Paris. And in Paris, we've got public transport all the way to 1 or 2 a.m. So people don't even have to think, I need to park my car and anything. Everything is easy, you know. And then the restaurants are open when the concert is done until at 11 p.m. you can still have dinner. So everything is done so that you can go have fun without really worrying. And I was amazed that we managed to gather to attract so many people to come and fill in the Élysée Montmartre. And it was, of course, a few of the diaspora, but mainly French people who really liked Afrobeat. And I was quite surprised that there were so many people. I thought, okay, so there's something to be done. There's really something. And it was a message to Ghanaian artists to say, hey, there's a market there. Go and conquer. Go for it. Because the people love you. They love what you do. What they need to know is what you do. They need to hear it. You need to be on the radio. You need to be pushed on the music TV and also on national TV. And so, yeah, it was an incredible experience. I've also come to the conclusion that I would not become an event organizer. Because
I was about to ask you whether it was easy getting the artists there.
No, it wasn't. And I think it's a job. It's an actual job. It's a profession, and that was not mine. So I really tried, and we did it. But
how was it getting them? Because I think you invited Sarko there.
Stoneboy,
Kwabena, Mr. Drew.
No, not yet. No, we didn't have Mr. Drew at that time. It was
Kwabena,
Fameye.
Okay, Fameye.
Gasmila.
Right.
We want to display a large variety of the different, high life and different style of music, rap, reggae, to show all that they were capable of doing. And then Becca, but she couldn't make it to France, but she was there for the one in Paris and Accra, yes. So, well, it's, when you're not used to it and you don't know how to... Well, thank God I had Bolare, because he was used to it. He did Ghana meets Niger. So he knew how to handle and discuss and talk to the artists. And but to me, it was a brand new world. It was something.
Is this something you intend doing again?
Me? Oh, no.
No, you asked me.
No. No, I mean, we each have to stay in our swimming lane. And much as improvisation, thanks to the help of Bolare, we managed to do it.
Now, why don't you want to do it again?
Because it's a different work. It's a different job. It's completely different. It's different. And it was difficult to do that in France, because in France, everything comes with a cost. So whatever you do, people say, oh, it's fantastic because artists can live on royalties. Yeah, but someone has to pay it, which means that we paid even more for the royalties for the songs than we paid for the venue. So,
wow. And
then the taxes come, and then so breaking even on such an event is really difficult. And there's so much you need to think of. You have to have a break. You cannot do the concert straight away. You have to have a half an hour break up to a point. Then you have to finish before 10:30. Otherwise, you have penalties. There's so many rules and regulations in France that make it very difficult and very complicated.
Speaking of royalties for artists, there was a time you mentioned that you were going to assist Gamro with the collection. What happened?
So so before I left, I negotiated with the French Ministry of Finance a budget, so that we were able to run a project to do that. So the budget has now arrived. It was €500,000, and so my successor is now running that project to help this system of royalties. Up to a point, there needs to be. If I look at how it happened in France. The principle of royalty is very difficult to understand, because in my old days, the moment people had bought the record, they said, oh, but I bought the record, so I'm free to play it in a public space, and even in my shop, so it adds value to it. And it was very difficult to explain that, no, you bought the record to listen to it for yourself and in a private environment. But if you're going to make money out of it as a DJ or as a lounge that will enhance the ambience, because a lounge without music is no longer a lounge. So it's actually adding value to your business. Then it's a different ball game. And then you have to pay for the royalties because the artists have worked for this and they need to be paid. And this concept is very complicated to understand in the first place. And it's even more complicated when, with all the streaming platforms, it gives the impression, if not the conviction, that music is free. Because you can have it for free, because you pay your monthly thing for Apple Music, and then you have music for free. Therefore, it entitles you to display it however you want. And it's very complicated to let people understand that and the artists have created something, a piece of art, that if you want to use it for professional and commercial purposes, you need to compensate somehow. So there is a moment when you have to go through the law to explain precisely what the use of music is considered private and what use of music. Same for the films, actually. Same for the movies. You know, I used to have VHS tapes. So it's okay if you watch it for yourself. But if you mean to open a cinema and then use the DVD that you bought to display and make money out of it, it's a different ball game. You're going to make money out of someone else's craft.
Right.
So we had to go through the law to be very clear on what it is, the definition, and how the money is being collected. Because otherwise it looks like random collection, and people say, why would you ask me to pay this amount? So it's a very clear, depending on the square meter of the cafe where the music is, even Airbnb places, if you offer a record player or TV, you have to pay a steady fee. And so how do you calculate that? You know, if you have a big nightclub or if you have a small lounge, of course you're not going to pay the same. So we have rules and calculation methods based on how many people are potentially listening or hearing it, or based on the turnover. Same for the radios, same for the nightclubs, same for all the people who live from displaying music.
Right.
So at the moment it's by law. Then when you walk into a nightclub and say, sorry, but you have to pay and contribute for the royalties, they don't kick you out because they know it's by law. They know that the law says, okay, considering the size of your venue and the number of people who can come to listen to the music in your venue, here's the yearly fee that you have to pay.
I see. But how is it in France? Is it... I hope they're not facing all of these challenges because, look, here in Ghana... It's a big task. It's a big challenge. Musicians crying day in, day out. Even how the distribution is a problem. Because a lot of the radio stations and these pubs and lounges and nightclubs are not paying what they're supposed to. And so musicians are not getting what they're due. Once in a while, they'll just throw in some amount of money. And their excuse is that your song is popular
and it's being promoted.
It's being promoted. What about a musician who may have died or a musician who is not very active with his craft? Now, for somebody like Daddy Lumba or Amachidede who hasn't released a song in years, better yet, well, very healthy, and his songs are very popular on radio and in clubs, their songs are played. Kojanchi, Bessa Simons and the rest. Yet, they sit back and then they receive
small money,
peanuts, because their songs are supposedly not loud enough on radios. In this case, how would you want it to be distributed, in your opinion?
In the so what's very interesting is that we have paired and made Gamro Meet Sassem, which is the biggest collector in the world. Actually, there was a number of artists, which because it's the eldest, and then PRS in the Anglo-Saxon world. it's like a big database. So we have, for instance, for radios, they have tools scanning the radios. So every time a song is being played, the computer is captured. So at the end of the day, we know how many minutes of your song have been played, song or jingle, because all that also deserves some royalties. And in France, with just one banga, you can live for your entire life.
True.
Especially when it's played again and again and again. So you don't even have to monitor it yourself. SACEM is doing that for you. And in between the artist and SACEM is an entity that is called a publisher. And they are like defending the artist and making sure that he's getting his what he's entitled to. And that is a link that you don't have here in Ghana. People call themselves publishers, but they don't do what publishing is about. So yeah, helping this to structure this music industry is what the project that we are funding is aiming at doing. It will not be enough, just the little drop that France is going to chip in, but the idea is that at the end of the day, maybe the law will be changed to make it very clear and compulsory what needs to be paid, and also GAMRU will make its rules clearer on how it is then distributed. But to do that, you need tools and equipment to have a very clear vision, minute by minute, of what is being played on the radio, in the nightclubs, in the lounges, everywhere. So of course they don't go to every lounge to listen to so they just it's a math, it's a calculation. This song is being played, so then it's a proportion. So if Daddy Lumba's song is being regularly played in the nightclub, we will extrapolate that it's probably also played in the same proportion in the radio, on the radio, in the lounge and everything. So he will get a proportion of the royalties that are being collected based on that calculation.
Listeners of Hits 103.9 FM, Her Royal Highness Anne-Sophie. I know this is one of your favorite songs, huh? Yeah. Favorites.
Yeah, actually, Calvin Boy is absolutely amazing. He's one artist who is even better live than
Yes,
even
yes.
on the record.
Right.
And it was a huge surprise for me because I knew Down Flat. I loved that song, but I thought it was a one banger, you know, and that this artist had only done that in his life. And he very kindly invited me to his very first concert where he was the headliner for Christmas. And I was absolutely baffled because his voice is on point all the time, live.
Shit.
Not one wrong, not
Note.
one thing, not one wrong note. It was absolutely crazy. And I discovered lots of tracks that I had heard somewhere, but I didn't know was his.
Okay.
So I think tonight he is presenting his EP at
Yes.
Front Back.
Right.
And you've got to make your reservation and go because it's going to be amazing.
Has he invited you yet?
Of course he has. I'm a diehard fan.
Okay. Yeah. His EP, amazing. I worked on one of the songs, and so
Oh, really? Which one?
Vero.
Vero. Oh,
yes,
that's
yeah.
amazing.
I
This song is
co-produced the
crazy.
Nice. So yeah, we'll meet tonight.
Oh, right. Okay.
Definitely.
Okay.
So let's go through your playlist.
So I start my day with you and I'll end it with you.
Yeah.
Oh, my God.
Yeah. Let's go
Okay.
through your playlist.
Okay.
So which Ghanaian songs would you listen to
Now?
in the morning? Okay, throughout the day.
Well, I've got a playlist that is so long. When I had my Boomplay playlist, you know, they gave me a Boomplay that is called Ghana Je t'aime, meaning Ghana, I love you. And I came up with 50 tracks. So she said, you have to narrow down. I mean, you have to. It's impossible. So every day there's a new track coming up. I love Last Mid. I think what he's doing is amazing. I love Olive the Boy.
Yep.
I mean, the song.
I was with you at the album launch.
Yes, I was there. The Good Sin is just incredible. You listen to it once and it's so catchy. You just listen to it all the time. I love the latest Mr. Drew.
Okay.
I really love what Mr. Drew does. I love his tracks, but I think he's also an incredible showman.
Too much.
Incredible. So you really need to see him on stage. There are people that you can buy the records and love the songs, and there are people who really are showmen and people you need to see on stage, really. Of course, Stonebwoy Sarkodie are you know,
amazing.
You have to have them in your playlist, and yeah, I just love their tracks. And I think that Sarkodie's featurings are always a hit. Always, all he does with other artists, the songs he did with Kwesi Arthur, with Kwame Eugene, is just absolutely amazing. And it's also pushing artists, you know, out there. And of course, what Stonebwoy does is just out of this world. I love his former records and albums better. I'm not used to the new one, Fifth Dimension yet, but it's crazy. I mean, it's impossible to say. Of course, King Promise's Terminator is just.
And I saw you dancing to Terminator. Were you learning the routine?
Oh yeah, Ziggy was kind enough to teach me. He was very patient and taught me. So I had to work on that one. Have
you perfected it yet?
Yeah. I think I'm getting better. I think I'm getting. It's helping me in my morning routine.
Okay.
Yeah. No. You have incredible artists. I'm sure I forget many. And sometimes there's a song that you like from an artist that you don't really know. And you have artists that are just, you know, emerging and suddenly, even if they've done a bit before. So this is really Ghana. So you have nothing to be envious or ashamed or feel down about compared to the Nigerians. They are different. I like what I see at the moment on social media, the challenges where they have the dance moves of Nigeria and Ghana.
Right, in Ghana.
It shows how
I
different
think Ghana
it
beat
is.
them. Ghana beat them to it.
It's of course, but it shows how different it is. So the comparison doesn't make sense. Yes, it is Afrobeat, and let's look at it like Nigeria is paving the way. It's opening the doors for the entire African continent. 250 million Nigerians, and you know, when music is good, numbers don't really matter.
True.
It helps because when you come from a country that's 250 million, it's easy to hit a million and therefore make money and enough money to go out there. You struggle more. But if you look at Jamaica, they were not millions, and yet the music from Jamaica conquered the world. And if you look at the big artists who made it in France, most of them, or quite a few of them, are Belgian, from this tiny little country next to France. And our biggest artists, the ones we made French, Johnny Hallyday, Stromae, Jacques Brel, they are legends of French music. They're actually Belgian. So size doesn't really matter in that respect. So it's just about promotion. It's about being pushed in on the media, the radios, not only in Ghana. It's great to use the diaspora everywhere in the world because they are a point of entry, but you have to go beyond that, and you have to conquer the entire country. It's a matter of being played in nightclubs, being played so you have to have local managers, local publishers who will push your songs for you. And that's how you conquer the world.
I want to get to know you much more. Your father was a record executive. I'm sure he was very busy with his work. What kind of childhood did you have?
Well, my mom was at home.
Okay.
And she was very strict. So,
wow,
yeah.
Really?
So I very much relate with African moms because my mom was very, very strict.
Was she African?
Nope, but she could have been. I'm telling you, she could have been.
Okay.
So my sisters and I, we had a very strict childhood where we had to work well at school. If we wouldn't dare come back with bad grades, that was impossible. One of my sisters was not as good as my younger sister, me. And so every Friday we had a school report. So we would meet, my sisters and I, we were very close, we're like 14 months difference. So we would meet outside the gate before we would go back home and say, so how much did you score? And so say, oh, that's okay. And you, that's okay. And the middle one, she said, oh, I only scored, it was in percent. It was like, oh, I only scored 63. And I was like, oh my God, the weekend is dead. Trouble. So we were strategizing and say, okay, let's pretend we didn't get a report this week. Okay. And then on Monday morning, just to save her and us, because it would ruin our entire weekend, all three of us, we had group sanctions.
Okay.
And so Monday morning in the car, we'll have daddy sign. Like, oh, we forgot, and we have daddy sign. But the next week, when the next report came, my mother would see that last week there was my dad's signature. Okay. So on my younger sister and mine, it didn't make sense because we had good grades. But then the middle one, that's why daddy signed. And then we were double in trouble.
Okay.
So that was really, yeah.
What were your punishments?
Oh, no TV. We had to redo the exercises and then come and show her the exercise. So we would be working and studying all the weekend. So doing math, doing French, dictations and things. She ended up, after she finished raising her, my mom went back to school to study to become a teacher. No wonder. Absolutely no wonder. We were not surprised. Surprised. So yeah, we had this kind of, thanks to them, thanks to that, of course, I did the studies that maybe I would have been lazier if I hadn't been pushed.
But a daughter of a record executive, did you get to meet musicians?
Oh yes.
Did you get to be in studios where
Yes, I loved it. Yeah, and I'd even made a record myself when I was 5.
Yes. I think I remember that.
I recorded it. Yeah. Yes, because at that time, you see, musicians, they especially the ones who were just beginning, they were staying in a hotel, which was not very exciting. So my dad would host them. So we would have them for dinner. Okay. So I met lots of them. But to me, I was like 3, 4, 5 years old and up to 8. And it was normal. You see, they were on the billboards. They were at home. It was just anyone can be on a billboard. It didn't impress me. It was normal. When at a very young age, you are surrounded by people who are sometimes on TV and then sitting with you at the table. It just didn't. It was not impressive. It was just a job like any other.
Like normal.
I could see my baker. Everyone could see my baker too. So it was also famous. The baker, right. The people in the village all knew the baker. So fame didn't mean much to me. But yes, as it happens, when I was 5. I used to go and pick up my dad because we only had one car to share. So my mum would drive and say, "Go and pick up Dad." So she would leave us downstairs the office. So I would just climb and go and say, "Mummy's downstairs, come." So I was in my pajamas and I was going upstairs to his office and start knocking at the door and stormed in. And my dad was actually in a meeting with a producer.
I'm trying to figure out how.
Yeah, you see this 5 years old in the pajamas coming, "Daddy, Mummy's downstairs," and he was in a meeting with this producer who was looking for a 7-year-old young boy to record a record which would be promoting the songs of a set of records by
like a jingle.
No, it was, you see, there was a collection of records for children.
Okay.
Each record was based on a fairy tale with songs. And to promote the whole collection, they wanted to do one big promotional record that would be playing all the songs from every single album from those collection. And of course, they needed little boy to tell a story. And then Sleeping Beauty is in the bed and the Prince Charming is coming. So listen to the song about Sleeping Beauty. And then, so the story the story that little boy was supposed to tell was a little boy entering an enchanted kingdom where all those fairy tales heroes were. And it would introduce all the fairy tales heroes, which was an opportunity to introduce to the songs about that were coming with the fairy tale. So I walk in there, and this producer stops and says, "Oh, this is the little boy we're looking for."
Did you look like a boy?
Yeah.
Or you had short hair?
I had very short hair. And I look at him and I said, "I beg your pardon. I am not a boy." I said, and he looks at my dad. "Okay, she may not be a boy, but I still want her."
Okay.
And my dad said, "No way, it's my daughter. She's not an artist. She's not." They had
She's
been
just
auditioning.
5.
They had been auditioning all day, and they couldn't find someone. And my dad said, "No way, that's my daughter. There's no way she's going to record anything." So I said, "Yeah, let's give it a try." So I went into the studio. It was August, I remember. So I was 5, so it was literally 50 years ago. And I was supposed to tell that story, but I couldn't read. I was like 4.5. I couldn't read. So my mum was reading sentences, the short sentences for me, and I had to repeat.
Okay.
So the beginning was fun. But around me were drums and guitars and everything. Can you imagine a 4.5-year-old
surrounded by equipment?
Surrounded by equipment, and all you have to do is stick to the mic, talk to the mic, like it were an ice cream, and repeat what your mom says.
Okay.
And I was so fed up. And I was actually paid in strawberry ice cream, because in France you are not allowed to pay. You're not allowed to pay minors, underage. They're not allowed to work. So I did that for free, literally. And that record came out, and I think we sold like 10K, which is nothing. But it was not meant to be. It was meant to be distributed as a promotion thing. So that was the end of my acting career.
But for someone who had a dad like that, did you not have any ambition or dream to become a musician or be in the arts?
You can have the dream. If you don't have the talent, that's a bit of a problem. So no, I didn't really. Well, I used to play the guitar, I used to sing, I used to but I was very conscious and realistic that I didn't have any overwhelming talent that would have stuck out and made me an artist. Then my dad, who was in this area, really talked me out of it. He would take me to festivals and things, meet the artists backstage, but he would always tell me, "You see, they have such a bizarre life. They can't stay married for long, and they smoke weed. So you shouldn't.
My God.
You can't go into this." And I was like, "Oh, really? Oh, really?" They have very
That's it. Don't be Ghana alone.
Life. No,
don't be Ghana.
not at all. No,
don't be Ghana alone. They said they have to smoke weed.
No. But it was 1970s, It was the 1970s, so it was a different era. But that was the image of artists at that time. Oh, they're living by night. They don't have a steady life. They don't go to bed early and wake up early like you do. So they told me, no, you must have a regular job. You must, have a regular job. Be a lawyer, be a doctor, whatever you want, but not an artist. Okay. So I said, okay. But yeah, and it's bizarre because, when you have a passion for something, there's always a moment when it gets back to you. And I once was approached by a producer on the street who wanted me to act on a movie. So I was so excited. I went back home and said, yeah, someone said and there's a role that I could play. I said, no way. My parents, no way. School first. So, they literally killed my artistic career in the egg, actually. So, but
eventually,
I don't regret it.
You ended up in a movie. I think it was A Fire and Ice or something like that.
Yes, that was funny. See, it's catching up with you always. Yes, I did. It was Samuel de Graffibo asked me to. I said, well, why me? Why would I do that? It was and it was fun. I thought it's interesting doing a supporting role as a foreigner, doing a supporting role in the Ghanaian movie, and not always the contrary, where you have European or American movie, where you have the diversity alibi who is there. I thought it was great to be directed by a Ghanaian director and play. And so the very first scene was with Kalsum Sinare.
Yes.
And I knew what an amazing actress she was. And I was like a kid in front of a hero. And I thought, I have to play with her. And luckily, the scene I was playing, I was supposed to play like I was embarrassed. And I didn't play, really. It was very natural. I was so impressed. I was very, very impressed. And I saw her play. She's very, very impressive.
Does that mean why you don't get embarrassed? Or you couldn't be in the act?
No, but I was probably in character because I thought, okay, I feel embarrassed, so let's play embarrassed. So it's very easy. It's going to be easy. And then I played with Jackie Appiah.
Okay.
And when you play with people who are such professionals, it's very easy because I'm a bit of a scholar. So I arrived on stage knowing my text like by heart.
Your lines.
My lines were like comma. I wouldn't change a comma. And so when you play with people who are exactly the same as you and they know their text and everything goes very fluid. And I got a chance to play with Nikki Samonas. We had great
Oh, today's her birthday, actually.
Oh, happy birthday, Nikki.
Mm-hmm.
So I was so lucky to play with these people. And we had... But the one I did with Nikki Samonas was even funnier because I was supposed to be a French journalist interviewing her. That was my role. So we start shooting, and the guy says, "Cut, there's a problem." So what's the problem? So you don't have a French accent.
Oh.
So I had to fake the French accent because I was playing a French journalist.
Okay.
So faking the accent that you are supposed to have, it's quite difficult. It's quite
you
confusing.
should know that some of the things that are meant to be that kind of accent. Is it?
Yes. I have to force it. So yeah, it's. But I learned English from Dutch, not from French. So I don't have a French accent because
because I was about asking why you don't, because your English is
Scottish.
Yeah, you don't even sound French.
No.
Does that mean you didn't live in French? Or you lived in Belgium?
Yes.
Or you were raised in Belgium?
I grew up in Belgium.
Okay.
So that's where.
So, but you speak French, obviously.
I do.
You speak Russian?
Yes.
German?
Yes.
What else? Okay, a little bit
Dutch,
of
Dutch.
Dutch. You're learning Chi now.
Yeah, well, I can't say I speak it. I know a few words. That's it.
Like
it's saying a yeah, comme demain. Obviously, very useful. Nikki Samonas taught me quain, like I'm lost. Show me the way. Show me quain.
Okay. Share me quain. Show me.
Yeah.
Share me quain.
Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, but I learned a few expressions. I can pick it up. You see, when you speak to around me, I can pick it up.
Oh my God! Yesterday, I was at the Swiss ambassador's residence. She said, when she was delivering the speech, she said,
"Si campe dede."
No, not that one.
Not
She
that
said, no, she was reading. She said, I brought my, I brought my pomaquam. Charlie. And the way she said it, everywhere you Pumakwem, like, and immediately she got her attention, like, whoa.
So what does that mean?
Everywhere you Pumakwem, it means, well, the road is clear.
Oh, right.
But it's like a proverb, right? Which means
been given a green light.
Yes, the road is clear. Now you're free to go. But in literary terms, the old lady, she blocks the way with a stake.
Mm-hmm.
So once she takes off the stake, you're free to go.
Okay.
Yes, I think it's good. And it's an adage. It's an old adage. So yeah, it's quite difficult for you to learn that one, but
yes,
I'm sure you'll pick it up somewhere along the line.
no, I've got the basic ones. I've got the basics.
Yeah, frame me akosia.
Yeah, frame me. Yeah, mendinde akosia.
You're a fast learner.
Well, 4 years. I should be much better. I should be much better. I've been very lazy. But you see, I tried to learn some Twi, and then I went to the market in Jamestown, the fish market, and all those people, they don't speak Twi, they speak Ga. And then I went to the Volta region, and the people speak Ewe, and say, how do you expect me to learn a language that not even you speak?
So apart from Chi, you don't know any Ghanaian language?
No. Stoneboy tried to teach me a few words of Ewe on my TV show, but I think apart from Kuvu or something, I can't remember. It's in the car and driving, he had taught me. But Mecca?
Deka.
One.
He's Eve.
Eve. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So, but I can confuse people because my name seems to be Eve.
Eve, yeah. Right. But Ave, is it French?
I didn't really know where it comes from. I got that. It's the legacy of my husband. So I don't know. It's we don't really know where it comes from because Ave means bird in Spanish, so it could be Spanish. So his dad was from the north of France, northeast, so close to Germany, but it doesn't mean anything in German. So we don't really know. We don't really know where it comes from.
I'm sure you read a lot of books.
Oh, a lot, yes.
Okay.
I'm a very heavy reader.
I may surprise you a bit, but some of your guidance quotes say the problem well posed is part of the solution. Mm-hmm. It's part of your guidance quotes.
Oh, is it?
Any blurry objective inevitably turns into precise mess.
Yes, that's my quote. Yeah, I love it. Yeah, that's my quote. That's true. But it's very true, isn't it?
Yes.
If you don't have a clear objective, you turn into a very precise mess.
And then to be respected, you need to show respect first.
Yes.
You said that.
I said that. Of course. Oh, did I say that? Oh. Okay. Oh.
And then the last says, however high we are seated, it is still on
your
our
bottom.
Yes.
That's true. That is true. It's very true. This is why I never take myself seriously. I take what I do seriously, but I don't take myself seriously. You're only on Earth for a short period of time. And your legacy is not how important you have been. It's how much you have done for the people, how much you have changed the life of the people. And to do that, you have to succeed somehow, because then you can do more for the people. And that's all that matters. That's all that matters. And because at the end of the day, you die alone. But when you are going through tough times, what helps you is not the amount of money you have, is the love that you're getting, and that is what is supporting you. But I didn't know I had so many quotes. I should write a book.
When you were talking about, I'll let my elders come in pretty soon. Excuse me. When you were talking about the role you landed in the movie, you mentioned embarrassment, and I even asked you about whether you do get embarrassed sometimes. Well, in fact, we are all humans. Once in a while, some embarrassments may come your way. People have mood swings, and certain things you may take lightly, certain things you won't even accept. What is that one thing you wouldn't take at all, or you won't accept?
Disrespect.
Disrespect.
Not for me, for the people. Disrespect for me, I mean, I can handle it because I know who I am, I know what I've done, and it's okay. But disrespect for the people, I think I've gotten very angry once in my 4 years, and it was because someone disrespected one of the local staff who is Ghanaian, And it drove me absolutely mad, because I told the person, this is their country. We are in their country. We owe them respect. And I will not you talk to them like you're a slave master. This is over. And the person didn't stay long. I sort of sent her back to Paris. But,
Hey.
but this is something you have to respect, the people and the traditions and the culture, even if you don't understand it. I mean, there are many things in the Ghanaian culture that's so different from my culture. But respect is about trying to understand first, and there must be a reason. And in the Ghanaian culture, everything has a meaning, everything. The dance, the reason why you do this, this thing, washing your hands like this, or the libations or whatever, everything has a meaning. So disrespecting it is disrespecting some beliefs or traditions, and you can't do that. So yes, what really drives me mad is disrespect or lack of responsibility. I think if you really want to trigger my anger or annoyment, you say, I give you a task and I ask you, okay, is it okay? Can I help you? Or how are you getting on with it? And it's not done, and you say, yes, but it's not me. The yes, but it's not me, that drives me mad. That drives me mad, because the person who says, yeah, it's not me, and you're like, but then who? Then who? Is it me? So that really triggers my anger. But I don't get angry easily, no.
There are two other things I want to talk about. Time is not on our side, and so I'm going to make it snappy. The first is your concern about Ghanaians coming to you for visas. I think you wrote something, you posted something on social media.
Stop harassing me with visas. I'm not a consul. True. Yeah.
Were they coming at you?
Oh, yeah. Night and day. Night and day. Oh, on my phone as well. I don't know. Sometimes they managed to get my WhatsApp and they called me middle of the night. And I was like, oh, it's crazy. Crazy. But I understand. I understand where they come from. I mean, you need to travel. You have an appointment. You have a concert. You have a business meeting. And then you apply for a visa and there's no appointment, no slot.
Because for me, I told you the other time, I'm trying to get a visa.
No slot.
No slot.
I know. There are many reasons for that, which will not console you at all, but it will explain a bit. One is the number of requests has increased dramatically. So the size of the desk that is providing and studying the applications is not enough. So because we went from 4,000 a year to 7,000 to 10,000 suddenly with the same number of people. So that's one thing. But the other thing is scammers. Some people are buying the slots to sell them back.
How did they do that?
Well, they were using some insiders who were on their mobile phone refreshing the VFS website until there was a slot available. They would buy it with a fake number, a passport number, a name, pay 70 cedis to book that slot, and then they would sell it back for 800.
Wow.
So and all they had to do was just refresh and buy the slots and sell them back. Then there must have been some insider's complicity, because then you need to change the passport number. So in my last month in office, what I was going through every Friday was asking VFS for the list of appointments for the next 3 months. And then I would sort them by phone number, sort them by email, sort them by motive of travel. And when I saw that 60 applications had the same phone number, I was just cancelling immediately those 60. And so the people would turn up and say, oh, but I had an appointment. Say, so sorry, it was cancelled. And they would go back to the agent or the middleman who had illegally sold them this appointment for 800 CDs instead of 70, and they would do their business together. So I didn't meddle into it. I just cancel it. I said, no, it's obviously not their phone number, so there's no point calling them, saying, is that true that you have an appointment? I was also checking the motives. So people were ticking family reunion. But we have a very small Ghanaian diaspora in France, so chances are very little that they're actually going for a family reunion. So we would sort out the Excel sheet and all the family reunion motives. We would call the phone number, say, oh, okay, so family reunions, what's the name of your family, where does it live?
Trouble.
Of course, they couldn't answer. Well, sorry, we cancel your appointment. When you book your next appointment, you say tourists. It's perfectly fine.
Right.
So we would just, check and sometimes I had applications for student visa for someone aged 63.
Ah.
So I said, so you check the birth date and you check the motives and you say, that's not possible. So that's how I managed to cancel many slots, reopen them. But then within 2 hours, they were booked again. Because some scammers were actually refreshing the screen and rebooking. So every week we had to clean the lists, reopen the slots. I'm not sure they are still doing that, but we have 3 months wait, but you need a visa from the French embassy only if your first point of entry in the Schengen zone is France.
Okay.
If your first point of entry is Spain or Germany and France is just a transit.
Right.
You need a visa that you go and get from the consulate, Germany,
right.
in consulate in German consulate or Spanish consulate, Italy, or that's the first point of entry. But for bizarre reasons, suddenly people were very attracted to France. My bad, probably. So we were overwhelmed with visa applications. 3 months wait is obviously a lot, especially when you can't get a slot and you have other things to do during the day. Other than refreshing your screen until there's a slot available. Okay. So usually early in the morning there might be slots available. But for some countries you've got up to 3 years wait. So
Hey, actually, a little bit small. The last of my questions will be the application for diplomatic passports, where.
I made a bit of a wahala here.
Some people heckled you for that, like, yo, really? Well, what's she saying? That our musicians are ambassadors, and so they must be handed over diplomatic passports. Was that the main reason you called for that?
I thought when I listened to Sarkodie on stage in the US with the Ghanaian flag, hailing people, telling them you've got to come to Ghana. If you come to Africa, come to Ghana. If you come to Ghana, come in December. December is Ghana. In Ghana, we've got Coco, we've got Gold, we've got Chata Wale, we've got Stoneboy, we've got amazing musicians. He was promoting Ghana so much that I thought, wow, how long would it take for a regular ambassador to the United States to reach out to so many people and promote Ghana to so many people who are already acquired because they love him and that's why they came to see him. And I said, he is an incredible ambassador for his country. And most Ghanaian musicians, when they are overseas, they never forget to say, I'm coming from Ghana, Africa, the Gold Coast, and Stonewall also does that. And I thought, well, these guys, they should be, their travels should be facilitated somehow, and they should be recognized as cultural ambassador to the country. And as it happens, in many African countries, diplomatic passports are given to really high-profile artists who impersonate the country. And if you think of Jamaica, you think Bob Marley. If you think of Côte d'Ivoire, music-wise, you think of Alpha Blondy. So each country has like one superstar that you're thinking of. Like if you think of Liberia, you think George Weah. So one person, be it an artist, a football player, or sometimes a leader, represents and impersonates the country. And it's a huge support for that very country when they want to attract investments, when they want to. And I think, why don't you use them and say, okay, you are doing a lot of good things for our country and for the image of our country. So in return, we will facilitate your travel with a diplomatic passport, which is also a way of saying we sort of empower you as our ambassador, a brand ambassador. I'm not saying we should give diplomatic passport to every artist, but you probably have one or two that you really are doing a lot for this country in terms of, putting the image out and putting Ghana to the world. So it was just a suggestion because it's possible and because some countries do it. I didn't expect it to be all over and every radio station having a discussion and debate about it. And which was quite flattering because I said, "Oh my God!" So what I say still has some sort of influence, which is whoa. Yes. But even the president said, "Oh, I heard you suggested that artists should have diplomatic passport." I said, "Oh my, I'm sorry, Mr. President. I hope it was not hassle for you."
Wow.
Yeah. So even he heard it. So, but it didn't come out of nowhere. I had already discussed that with GIPC before. Okay. So it was not an idea like, "Oh, I'm throwing it." I always, as a diplomat, I had contacts with the ministers. So this is an idea that I had pushed already with with some ministers or people who were looking at promoting Ghana. So I had this discussion with Yofi Grant from GIPC, and I told him, you're working so hard on trying to promote Ghana when you have brand ambassadors who do it just like that.
Right. Okay. Well, listeners, in case you just tuned in, you're listening to Hits 103.9 FM. We've been speaking with the former French ambassador, and as usual, well, this is a youthful brand. I've seen some comments, and well, very interesting. We're getting to know the showbiz and entertainment side of the French ambassador. Martinez, please come in.
Yeah, good morning to Ifya Papabi and Robert Sklar.
Yeah, Robert.
Interesting discussion. And the one thing she said that got me laughing is the fact that she probably, if there's a problem with her exams or her paper you don't pass, and the punishment has to do with you not watching TV and redo the work. When you compare to our setting, if that's the case, then like that wouldn't have been a problem to us if you are not only to watch TV because you have failed. But here, the canes and the lashes you have, makes it very, very, very difficult at a point. That brings that childhood feeling. But, it's easy to relate, especially when you are stubborn in class or maybe it doesn't go well. So that got me laughing, that interesting part of it. But above all, I think you've said a lot of things that is worth discussing for our industry to help promote it for growth, especially talking about the royalty system where an artist can live his or her whole or entire life based on just a banger. I mean, I wish it happens here, and I'm very sure, very optimistic that time will come where everything will be appropriate. The structures will be very good, whereby you don't have to even release albums upon albums and still struggle. I believe you are part of our art now. Listening to you, I now understand the reason why you have so much interest in art. Because initially, I was somehow surprised your influence, but getting the background of you having a dad who was a record executive and all of that, so it's clear you really have that
blood.
Yes, in it. So it's very good you've extended that to our industry. You've really supported. You've played a key role. And I don't think we will write our history from your generation concerning our art, and your name wouldn't be part, especially to the extent of pushing diplomatic passport for our art. These are all concerns that shows how you are so into our game. My little concern is the part you raised at the Accra to Paris concert. You are no longer going to produce.
I have a job to do.
Yes,
I have a regular job to do.
Exactly, I get that, but I feel it should go on.
Yeah, it should go on, but promoters should take over.
Exactly, that's my point. Because I believe that you have set the pace. You have created the opportunity, because 200 event centers or 200 auditoriums in Paris, I mean, it's huge. I mean, there's plenty for us to occupy some space. And even with that, with the Accra to Paris concert, I didn't hear or I didn't see much noise about it. I was extremely shocked when you talked about how the place was full and all of that. But
you didn't hear noise?
It's like we didn't make too much noise about it. But rather we are so focused on the O2 Arena and making noise concerning artists filling the auditoriums in UK. But this is something we can also drum to that extent to really big our industry up and even get more artists to do. So for me, I think with what you said, I get a point very clear. But our event promoters and organizers, I mean the team, we should come together and continue that legacy, that Accra to Paris legacy. For me, I think that will open more doors for young and upcoming artists, especially from our side.
That could be a connection with French promoters, but it has to be an impulse from maybe the Ministry of Culture. Guinea has just filled in the Casino de Paris, which is a big venue, Guinea, with Guinean artists. So they all got together to display all the diverse kind of songs that they were capable of doing. So Manamba Kante, who is the daughter of Mori Kante, who is very, very big in France. Soul Bangs, who is an amazing artist as well. And many other Guinean artists. Yes, you are right. When it comes to stand-up and comedians, the language matters, and they could display also those comedians who are absolutely hilarious, but because they speak French. But music-wise, we don't care. And those songs that these African artists sing in France, it's usually in their local language. So don't tell me about language barrier. You have bangers with Nigerians, and you sing in Twi. And don't tell me Nigerians understand it. And it's still a big, big song in Nigeria. So there's no such thing as language. Music is the language. That's what matters. And even Sarkodie with rap, which normally is about the lyrics and the message you're putting through. In France, the rap is literally advocacy and political. But even though he has made his flow like a drum beat, and his songs go out there. So there's no language barrier for music. So I'm dreaming of a venue in Paris where you fill it in with different Ghanaian artists, like the Afro-Chella or Afro-Nation nation that you have in here in Ghana, you know, one of the festivals you have for Christmas, and displaying it in France. But to do that, you need to have a pre-promo weeks and months before, where your songs and your music videos, which are very good quality, you know, it's not like it's filmed with an iPhone and edited. Like, no, it's very, very professional. These music videos, these music have to be everywhere, all over on the radio, and not only on the ghetto of Afro music radio. Yes, we do have some stations that only do Afro music, but it's a ghetto. We need to get out of that. You need to have the Afro beat and the songs on every national radio, national TV, just like the Nigerians are doing. In France now, you go to a nightclub, you go to a hairdresser, the music that's playing, you hear Fast, Last, you hear CK, you hear
in France.
In France.
Wow.
In France. And I'm like, wow. How did they do that? Well, they have publishers in France working for them to push their music in France. And the moment people listen to that, they gain interest. Wizkid filled in a stadium in France.
Wow.
So there is an appetite for Afrobeat, but you need to get people acquainted to what you do. And then if you get together, you can fill in a bigger venue than O2. We have the Stade de France is 100,000 seats, 100,000, plus the actual green. So they could fill it in, but not just one person, all of them.
Adam, please wrap it up for
I
us.
think you've said everything. I mean, the only thing I'd like to ask is the latter part of the tweets, where it's like there is a seeming comparison with some ambassadors. It is what some diplomatic experts have raised issues, like you're trying to slight some ambassadors by comparing them to what the musicians are doing. I mean, upon this reflection, do you think that was the intention, or, I mean...
No, really? Do people say that? It's ridiculous. We all have a role to play in promoting our culture and promoting our country and giving an image of who we are. The African people who live in France, they are very proud to display their culture. And I told the French nationals who live in Ghana, you are yourself ambassadors in your own way, because the way you behave tells something about what the French are. So there is a side of diplomacy, which is talking to the big guys and talking very seriously about very serious matters. And that's okay. We've been studying to do that. So no one doubts that. If you have been appointed, you can do that. But what matters to the public opinion, what is important to the public opinion, is that you open up and show them that at the end of the day, you may be the only French person they have ever met. So on your shoulders, there is this image, and people will make themselves an opinion of whether the French are friendly or not friendly just by seeing you, because you're the only French they've ever seen.
Yeah.
You know, so of course there is the diplomatic work, and that is something that is behind the scene. You can never display, but it all aims at the same objective, which is creating links, building bridges. So for the public opinion, it's symbolic to do these kind of things because it shows the kind of bridges you want to build at every level. And I think it's important. It's not diminishing, and I think it's looking down on artists by saying, oh, but you cannot compare ambassadors to artists. Of course you can. We're doing the same job. We have at heart our culture, our country, and we're trying to promote it. That's the common point we have.
Okay.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
I mean, you really made my morning.
You made mine too.
And getting to know you and your passion for our space. Joseph Animile says, good morning, please. Can you ask her about the coup happening in French countries in West Africa? What's I think? I was trying so much to
avoid that.
But
that's my job. That's my job today.
That's
so,
right.
Okay.
So,
but they're not French countries. That's. I think that would be a very quick answer. They're not French countries.
Right.
They've been ruling themselves for 60 years. Indeed, France has been supporting, subsiding, helping, and the countries who do not want France to be helping anymore, we're leaving, and that's not a problem at all. The countries who do not want the former French currency, which is not French actually, it's theirs. It's ruled by their central bank. They don't want it anymore. They can just leave it. It's not a problem. So you cannot create a fake story about you would be in prison and you would have a puppet master and France would be pulling the strings to justify your incompetency in terms of governance and maybe corruption, because that is what people are fed up with, and not with the French. So French is just a scapegoat. And again, if the people do not the French to be in their country, and I'm not quite sure what it means to be in their country, because having an embassy like every other country doesn't mean much. It means that we have diplomatic relations. But anyway, the countries who do not want French investments, French subsidies, we are very happy to withdraw. And you don't need to burn our embassies and attack us for that. You just ask. And if you are the legitimate elected president and you say, well, sorry, we don't want to partner with you anymore, we're very happy to go.
Interesting.
No, but I mean, there's a moment when you need to set the record straight, because it was funny up to a point to be bashed and to have bad mouthing and people who were telling lies about us. It was funny, you know. There was a moment when it was so ridiculous that it was hilarious. Like, oh, we would be stealing, you know, we would be digging with our guns, digging for gold, like we don't have any. It was hilarious. Like Macron would be pulling strings and everything. So we would laugh, and we didn't take it seriously because we thought nobody's going to believe such stupid things. But at the end of the day, not only do people believe it, but it has manipulated people to such an extent that some French institutes, which is like the Alliance Française, but they're called Institut Français, have been burned down. French citizens, French nationals who are there to employ people or to work in local companies, who have been there for ages, who've asked nothing, have been beaten up. The embassies are being attacked. So, and then the same people who attack our embassy say, oh, but why do you close your visa section? But why would you want a visa to go to a country that you hate so much? So, you know, there's a moment when if you don't love each other anymore, you just get a divorce and you try and make it as clean as possible. You don't need to be messy. So that's what we're facing at the moment. We are not 100%, innocent. We have been arrogant. Some of our companies have misbehaved. Some French nationals sometimes behave like they own the place. They're still there. Yes, there's all of that, indeed. And they do have reproaches against us that are absolutely fair and true. But I think these reproaches are enough. You don't need to make up stories to try and justify the violence that you have against us. So they are not French countries. They are African countries ruling themselves for 60 years. For good or bad, the governance has been criticized by the youth. Military have overthrown them. It's not always the same reason, but there's a fertile ground for discontent and unhappiness and their insecurity. And so the military, the soldiers may have found an opportunity to overthrow the leaders. I'm not sure it's going to be a better governance. And I'm not sure all of them are doing that completely independently from foreign powers who are actually financing and fueling the whole thing. We have the best intentions of partnering. You've seen that in Ghana. It's not about taking over. It's about partnering, because we love to work together. We love to learn from you, and we are very happy to share with you whatever we have and what can be useful. That's it.
Right. Many thanks for coming.
Thank you.
Your Excellency, Anne-Sophie Avé. We hope you stay and will not even go to any other country. And again, your successor will also continue with the legacy and the good job you've done when you were in office. We just hope and pray we have more diplomats like you.
Thank you.
Many thanks for coming.
I wish there were more countries like yours.
Thank you very much. Listeners, this is where we end the interview where... you love it.
I love it.
Nice. Let me tell you about HA Christian University College, a university set up to provide... Don't worry, I'm going to play for you. Don't worry. A university set up to provide a missing link in tertiary education.